All right. Pull up the chat. Welcome, everybody, to episode 44 of Full Circle. I am your host, Chad, flying solo today. Thanks again last week to Will Pagani for joining our show. Actually, I may be looking for a few more guests to try to add some more flavor down the road. Also looking forward as I get my house together. I know it's been taking longer than anticipated, but pardon me. But I'm hoping to get some more like strategy, maybe even do some streaming, things like that of games. So looking forward to that at some point. But until then, we'll sort of stick with the format we have for the time being. I know that there would be some more interesting things to do if I swap, to an audio only format and things like that. And I'm still working on getting some of that stuff going. So that said, we have some exciting stuff to talk about this week. So I'm actually going to go in the order of us, sort of like least important to main topic. So today the CID opened up for Blindwater Congregation. Looks like that'll be models that are releasing in the January ish time frame, possibly a little later, but I think January is the plan. And there's a lot of stuff there, some tweaks for their Warlock, some pretty potent stuff there actually. The Dracodile, long awaited, is part of that, and a handful of other things. So technically that stuff all does play for Circle. I think it all does anyways. So it's not that it's totally not relevant to us. But looking through it, almost all of the things that it did were friendly faction, and obviously Circle is not minions. There's no like ranking officers or anything like that in Hordes at the moment either. So and especially not in Circle. So I, dubious as to how useful some of these pieces will be. There's a couple that I think if they went from friendly faction to friendly, we would take a look at again. But until then, I may circle back to this depending on if I give it a little bit more thought. This kind of dropped this afternoon, and stuff like this is going to be a little bit more nuanced for us. So anyways, but take a look if you also play minions, or if you're curious to see if any of that stuff will work for Circle. There's some cool looking stuff in there. Just a quick note, Eilish, the rules for Eilish were added to War Room either last night or today, and he looks, I'd have to really look closely, but I'm pretty sure he is exactly the rules that we saw from him in at the end of his CID cycle. So I would say the most watered down version of him. That said, he does still remove upkeeps. He still provides Puppet Master. Bleed is still okay. He does have the utility of doing D3 damage to anybody throwing spells around near him. Still 5 points though. So he could be something we need to pay attention to, especially as it seems that most of the theme forces coming out are going to have the inclusion of a minion unit or solo. Unit and solo, or solo, whichever it is. However, I don't know how many lists he's going to make. He's got essentially like an 11-inch threat to remove an upkeep, and he's a minion model, so he's not going to, for the most part, add any points to your theme force for whatever benefits. Yeah, so, and like I said, 11 inches to remove an upkeep is his threat. We can extend that, I think, only realistically with Kruger 2 using TK on him. So we go up to 13 inches. Not bad, not great. Yeah, so that's more of a side note. I'm not overly excited necessarily for him, not like I was when I first saw him drop. I think I would have preferred the Repudiate version of him, but this is the version we have. I assume that internal playtesting showed that it needed to be at about this power level, and so here we are. And that takes us into what I think is going to be a topic that we can probably spend the majority of the show talking about, which is the theme. So the Theme Force drop hasn't happened yet. I think today they said they're hoping for Friday. That said, we did get the preview version of Circle's Living Beast theme from which Will Pagani posted on Monday. And it's pretty exciting, to be honest. We've been waiting for this theme, so it's called Call of the Wild. I keep getting Call of the Wild and Call of the Hunt confused, the latter being Kaitu's feet. Somebody actually, a fellow named Tom, I think, corrected me on the forums. And it looks pretty good. So the benefits are, you're restricted to, so it is very narrow. You are restricted to non-character living friendly faction war beasts. Blackclad solos, Shifting Stone units, Gallows Grove solos, and Lord of the Feast. You're also allowed a minion unit or solo, or solo. And then the benefits are for every 25 points of living war beasts, you can take a Shifting Stones unit or Blackclad solo for free. I'm just going to get this out of the way now. I need to see the wording on it, but I don't actually know, like based on the wording in the article, it seemed to me that you could include the attachment and it would be free, in which case you just do that. I mean, the attachment isn't always great, but he's pretty good for free. I'm not sure. There aren't really a ton of things out there that give you a free unit generally, and the ones that don't really have attachments. Like you can get, I think you can get like a free Necrosurgeon and Stetchrals, but there's no attachment for that. And you can get like free Cephalix Overlords, I think, in the Cephalix theme, but again, there's no attachment for that. So, we may have to look at the wording when it comes out, but there's a chance that it will allow the Stonekeeper. Well, I think the Stonekeeper will be allowed. Sorry, the Stonekeeper for free. Even if it was, that wouldn't... So I'm sort of getting off target here, but even if it was free, I don't think that really puts us like into the crazy realm compared to some point benefits of other themes, right? Where we would still max out at less than 20, because the best you could do is would be 18 points. So two Blackclad Wayfarers and 2 full units of stones with attachments would be 5, 5, 4, and 4 is 18. Anyways, so for every 25 points of living war beasts in your army, you can get a free Shifting Stone unit or solo. So I take it back. You could get to 20 by taking Lord of the Feast as one of your benefits. Anyways, you get +1 to the starting roll, which if you read the article and didn't see it, it wasn't in there. Will clarified later on Facebook in a few times that just got cut in editing by accident. So you get +1 to your starting roll. And then the biggest benefit, which is Animi on your war beast costs 1 less fury to cast. No minimum. There are some awkward... I don't want to really dig into this. There's some awkward rulings on how that works on Tanith's feet. It works basically the worst possible way. We'll see if that remains. I don't want to get into it really just now. I would say at the moment, if you're thinking of playing Tanith in this theme, look up how this works and really give consideration to maybe going with a different theme, to be honest. However, so the big deal here is right? We need a reason why we're playing beasts, right? So, two things. One, what this finally lets us do. This is one of the hugest complaints that we've seen all over the forums, which is something to the effect of like, well, Khador can just play, 100 points worth of Warjacks and still get benefits that are amazing, and Cygnar can play 100 points worth of Warjacks and they just get 20 points for free, or Legion can play 100 points worth of Warbeasts and they're just getting 20 points for free. And we're Circle and we can't compete with that because we have to pay for our support and blah, blah, blah. Well, realistically, the only here's the Warbeast support that we have to begin with. Shifting Zones, as I mentioned, they have Fury, Manipulation, they can place their beasts, and they have Healing. Blackclad Wayfarers, Hunter's Mark is very much a support piece. The Druid Wilder can both medicate and remove Fury from a beast, so that has a lot of uses. After that, however, we're talking about, I guess, Bloodweavers have a healing effect. If we're talking about Wolds, obviously the in Bones, the Stone Shaper has a lot of Wold support, but that doesn't help our Living Beast, which is sort of what we're focusing on. So that's it. I'd have to really think. I mean, obviously they're Warlocks, but that's pretty much it. You could argue something like a Gorax or a Wild Argus is sort of like support for Warbeasts, but there also are Warbeasts, so I don't want to dwell on that too much. Anyways, we don't have all that much support. This theme does allow us to take all of that, though. And that's pretty cool. And so, but it is very restrictive. And in SR 2017, if assuming you want to maximize your benefits and you want to stay relevant on scenario, the only units you can take are Shifting Stones. Another reason why if that Stonekeeper thing might be good to know about. The only units you can take are Shifting Stones. So you kind of need to, no matter how you look at this. I feel like you do. You probably, I would say, the vast majority of the time, let's say you did do 100 points of Warbeasts. Those 100 points of Warbeasts probably need to be getting you 2 Blackclad Wayfarers and 2 Shifting Stones. And the reason I say that is if you have that many Warbeasts, having the Hunter's Mark is going to be key. You're also going to want to have solos that you can use to contest and control flags. Contest everything, control flags. The spray is really relevant since you, depending on the beast, like where you're at for infantry clearing may differ. But the only way you're getting a unit in this, the only way you're getting a warrior unit, we don't have a beast pack anyways, but the only way you're getting a warrior unit into this is if you happen to decide to bring a minion unit. That said, it's not going to be necessarily the most terrible idea, right? Swamp Gobblers, Bellows Crews count as a unit. If you have so once you have at least 27 Warbeast points, you can, if you can get to exactly 100 points of beasts, which is not the easiest thing in the world, of course, but if you can get to exactly 100, and then you could do Gobblers for 2 points, and that's going to give you a third unit that you can use to score. And they bring other stuff to the equation too, right? Like they've got, the Cloud is super relevant. Makes them hard to kill. Can block line of sight. Actually they're really good just because they can throw Prowl out there for Wayfarers or Warpwolf Stalkers, or that's it. So they're a pretty big deal. So that's something to consider. As somebody did bring up minion options, and I think I've talked about the Gobbers on the show before, but they're going to continue to be strong. Anyways, so that's the support you would be taking anyways. I think that's what your free points are going to be allotted to most of the time, maybe not all the time. Blackclad Solos does include Una 1, which we'll see how that shakes out. Again, one of the problems I sort of see is unless you have enough Warbeast points So like, she's good in that you have something that's a very battle group centric sort of theme force, right? Where you want to put a lot of things into your battle group, and so with SR 2017, you're going to have a hard time with stuff being able to flank, and she can have a module of stuff that doesn't need to be on top of where your warlock is. So that's good. However, as I just went over the points, like to get her in your list, you're sacrificing either a black laddered unit of shifting stones. You can't really afford to check. I'll have to play it, but I really don't think you can afford to sacrifice the unit of shifting stones because of the fact that you need them for scoring. And we, like I said, don't have, unless you can also squeeze gobbers in there, but like you just aren't going to have any other unit then. And that's going to make her, that's going to make her superior when you have 28 plus War Beast points. Off the top of my head, 28 Kruger 1, Una 2, Grail, Baldur, both Baldurs, although I really don't see I don't think this is the theme for Baldur 2, but we'll come back to that. Both Baldurs, Tanith, Kaya 2, I think Kaya 3 is 27 or 26, both Chromax. Chromac 2 might actually be 28. I'm going to try to pull that up real quick while we're talking. Pardon me. And the reason for that is then if you can get past the threshold for getting like being able to pay the 3 points for the shifting stones, or like I said, depending on how that shakes out with Chromac 2 has 28, so he's another option where you could get away with it. But depending on the apologies, just trying to get my stream back up. All right, depending on a lot of things, really, you can get Una in there maybe with a honestly a variety of different things. But you probably sort of want it to be something that supports her decently well, and you still only have the same 4 options of what to put on her. And obviously, she's not an option within 2. So, yeah. I do think so. I think the Druid Wilder, when you can get it in, is going to be good. I think the shifting stones are going to. The shifting stones are the most essential. I think. Time will tell. Obviously, I'm talking about maximizing your points, but that may not always be the right call, right? I think there's probably enough interesting builds at 75 points worth of beasts where you're getting 3 solos for free, and then you may be bringing a minion unit, you may be bringing a minion solo. That's going to give you a few pieces. There are a few that you're going to be able to fit in, like I said, depending on the number of points you go over. Gobber's Bellows Crew gives you an additional unit. For 3 points, you get like a Bogtrog Trawler with ambush. They're pretty good. Yeah, even with 1, getting a Gobber Chef is not terrible. I mean, that guy just running up a flank to go to a flag is fine. Occasionally, a Gallows Grove might sneak into your list. Lord of the Feast may also start to prove. So at first blush, I know he's kind of just like, eh. And it sort of got brought up today. They were talking about how Barnabas 2 is now in the Wormwood, Old Witch, Lord of the Feast tier of entities in the world, and I sort of was. Well, I think Lord of the Feast is okay, and he has some play, and I think he's a little better than a lot of people give him credit for. He doesn't feel to me like he's in his play. Sort of illustrates, being at Wormwood, Old Witch level of efficacy. So we'll see if that ever, if there's ever a time that's revisited. But he is still a stealth solo that's not that easy to kill, and might be the piece that you need to, to put on a flag or something like that, right? 12-17 stealth 8 wounds is no joke to try to kill. And against infantry, if you can start to load him up on corpses, he's gonna be pretty good. So keep that in mind. Just trying to think of other things. Okay, so let's talk about the best benefit of the theme. The best benefit of this theme is the fact that Animi costs 1 less, and that turns on a lot of interesting things. Let me just go through it. I'm going through from memory, so forgive me. But the Animi that end up costing 0 with this change. Lightning Strike on the Warpwolf stock. Oh, I forgot to mention Brenos is also allowed in this theme, regardless of Morvana's inclusion. They mentioned him as a shepherd. He does have condition. I still think that's a terrible ability on a 17-point Warbeast, so I hope that maybe there's some thoughts on the evolution of Brenos that they're, down the road we are going to get. I like Brenos where he is. The mention of him as a shepherd sort of makes me want more from him in that regard. And I've long thought that condition needs to be something a little bit better because, again, using a 17-point Warbeast to add or remove a single Fury from a beast is a very poor use of 17 points. So, I'm not saying there aren't cases where it, makes sense to do it, but anyways, Animi that cost 1, and I'm just sort of working my way through the list. But Warpwolf Stalkers, Lightning Strike. All 3 satyrs have a non-Brenos satyrs have a 1 cost Animi. So the Bulldoze Animus on the Riphorn, the Earth's Blessing on the Gnarlhorn, and Puissance, I believe is how it's pronounced. Used to be called Trainwreck on the Shadowhorn. That one's range 6, also not range self. So that's very compelling. And then as we go through the Light War Beasts, Elusive on Scarsfell's Griffins, Amok on Razorwing Griffins, the Animus of the Moonhound, that's name I'm forgetting, that removes stealth, also only costs 1. That's kind of huge, right? Like there's really 3 notable, to me notable Animi here. Lightning Strike for free is fantastic. I think that's one of the biggest things that has made a lot of people not love Warpwolf Stalkers is the fact that it's extremely hard to, you're like, oh, well, Lightning Strike costs 1 less. And you're like, yeah, but it's only Mat 6, and like, there's just, and I say only, I mean, Mat 6 is average, but there's just times where if you start doing the math on what you need to kill, you need that last Fury, basically. So yeah, being able to do Lightning Strike anytime now is huge. Also, the fact that you can do it after the fact is a pretty big deal. So let's say you did primal your Stalker, right? Let's just say you primaled your Stalker, and then you killed something because you primaled it. Well, now you can still sprint, which means, sometimes a Stalker that you primaled, you're like, that thing's done for. Well, now you might be able to bring it back to somewhere where it's safer, or you might be able to push it farther forward to just be a pain to, you know what I mean? Like, you're like, I set this trade up, I know the Stalker is dead, but so a lot of savvy players are going to try to ignore the primal Warbeast because it's primal, right? It's only going to attack one thing. You run a dude in front of it, or maybe even set up so that one of your own guys, or one of the person with the Stalker that's frenzying, you just set it up so that it doesn't matter, basically. And you might be able to sprint deep enough that, like, it has to matter, right? Or maybe you kill something, you can sprint into a zone. Even though you're going to frenzy, you're still going to score that zone. And again, just normal uses of it, right? Like, you're just going to get one more attack because you can put up Lightning Strike. If you have Wraithbane in your list, right? So if you brought a Pureblood along to the show, and you needed Wraithbane for your attacking, you kill, you come on back with the Lightning Strike. The number of applications of this are massive. then I'm sort of going through my thought process, so this might be a little messy, but the next one that's super relevant to me is the Scarsfell's Griffins. Again, because of the ordering of things, you can prime them first and still use elusive. Basically, unless the spirit is out on a Scarsfell's Griffin, it's going to have elusive up. It might as well be, or if there's a few other things that prevent casting, but it might as well be it might as well just have dodge written on its card, right? Like, quick caveat, the cost does not change if your warlock is casting this spell. Just want to throw that out there. So, and for fairly good reason. So that's sort of huge, right? So now let's talk about some of the warcasters that you're going to be bringing along to begin with that this theme really backs up, right? Kaya 3, Kaya 2, all the Kayas, all 3 Kayas, both Chromax, Una 2. Who am I leaving out? Those are probably the most obvious ones. Kaya, the Kayas, the Chromax, Una. Most are sort of. I don't love it because he kind of wants a unit, and you can't do it with a minion unit. You could do it with Wormwood. You could do it with either Kruger. I mean, they're sort of our generalist list, right? So, like, I think you could play them in almost any theme and have success. Anyways, those are the themes you can really bring and gain advantage of this. And now think about the fact that you could bring a Scarsfell's Griffin in any of those lists, and it's at worst defense 15. Kaya 2 and Kaya 3 both can increase its defense. Una's obviously got a lot of synergies with the Ps. This does allow a minion solo, so if you want to forego one of your free models, Wrong Eye and Snapjar totally allowed in this theme. Again, Starcross is very strong. Yeah, so your Scarsfells just have elusive. And the next one that's super relevant, and I've played this with Kaya 3, but I think it's relevant with pretty much all those warlocks I just rattled off, is the Gnarlhorn Satyr. He gets getting Earth's Blessing for free is huge. It's a model now, it can't be pushed, so that's a lot of control effects that are out there, you know, as far as like getting you out of zones and such. Stop some feats even. So you can't be pushed. Can't be knocked down. So again, someone like Kaya 3 who's increasing your defense, that's going to be super critical. Even with Chromac 2 who's increasing armor, I mean, you still need to, like, defense 12 is in that realm that, it's not what it used to be, but like it's in that realm that stuff may miss and a knockdown might be relevant. Also, it means that with them in particular, they have Counter Slam, and what that Animus means for them is that they can always make sure they can do. I mean, the positioning matters, but you can't turn off Counter Slam by knocking them down or making them stationary. You could still Shadowbind them. Not a ton of stuff has that. I don't think Blind works. I mean, it will affect their mat, but that's huge. I played a Kaya 3 list where I had like 3 Gnarlhorns, and one of the things that I was doing was trying to set up sort of a concave such that I was going to be able to get some counter slams, and I never really worked it out. I think it's doable, but I think I would have to play the list a lot more. But you always need to be getting that no knockdown, because if they can, they just like throw a beast into you or throw anything into you, or slam you or whatever, and then you're knocked down, and then you can't counter slam. So it's a pretty big deal, and I think it's a pretty critical thing. Again, you can do that after using something like Primal or Wraithbane. So that's pretty huge. Puissance for free on the Shadowhorn. It's interesting. It's an Animus. You'd be like, well, I think I'm better off just killing something. But, again, if you can do it for free, sure. You could end up getting some, like, pretty interesting... So, like, putting it on a Stalker, probably just a Stalker, so that you can, like, beat back something out of a zone and then sprint away, because you don't have to follow up the inch, I believe. So if you like make your last, as you're making your attacks with your sword, you could end up, let's say you killed like a random trooper with your bite on your way in, and then you made attacks with your sword on this other model, push it, and you can push it back an inch for each time you hit. But let's say you can't kill it, you at least killed the one, and now you can set up the beatbacks such that like you pushed it past your 2-inch melee. Or its 2-inch melee, so that you can safely sprint away, or be farther away from it if something you can't kill. That'll be a little tricky to engineer, but it becomes an interesting Animus, and it becomes something that the Shadowhorn might actually use. So, like right now, if you think about it, casting it on itself, it's going to be often you're going to be like, well, I need the one to jump, and then say I need to move this thing 2 inches, like I'm going to have to boost twice or something. Like it becomes very very awkward. So I think having access to do it for free is really good. Amok is very corner case. I think it does make the Razorwing Griffin a little bit more interesting. I wish it trampled for free, but only costing 1 is not nearly so bad. The Moonhound free Animus is good. It's nothing amazing. And then the things that cost 2 are costing 1 actually makes a very, very big difference too. I mean, your Pureblood now throwing Wraithbane out there is going to allow him 1 more boost on his ranged attack that turn if that's the route he went. 1 cost Primals, very, very good. 1 cost Spiny Growth is something Getorix is more often going to actually be able to use. Skyfire on the Storm Raptor costing 1 is a massive difference. Now I know how everybody feels about the Storm Raptor, and I like it. I still think there's room for improvement, but Skyfire costing 1 is a big deal, and the reason why is it's that spot in the math that you need, and by that what I mean is he's Fury 4, and so, but he's reload 1. So what you want to be able to do is take your initial shot and get 1 boost on it. Ideally, you want to set it. It's not always going to work out this way, but ideally, you want to have a situation where either you need to boost a hit or boost damage, not both. So now we're boosting once, we're buying an attack, and then we're boosting again. So the same sort of scenario, right? The problem is with that is normally your Animus costs 2, so you lost a boost, or you just double boosted this one and you didn't buy, which really, really reduces his output. So now, like I'm not gonna say that this is totally the final form that I want to see the Storm Raptor in, but I think it puts it in a realm that it's very compelling to me. I'm going to try some things with it, but it definitely makes it so that you can cast that Animus, because now you can Skyfire for 1, still do what I just laid out, and if the model is within the range that matters, depending, right? I'm talking about using the range attack, but even for the melee attacks, it's not irrelevant, because if you go in and now you're getting POW 12 Electro Leaps, like that's got a lot of potential. But for the ranged attack, again, if you're getting it in range, like you're getting POW 16, say there's something within 7 inches, or that you can get within 7 inches that's like a Khador Heavy or something like that, a Protectorate Heavy. Now you have the ability to drop 2 boosted power 16s on it. If you can get it safely within 7 inches. Big deal. It's a very big deal. Where before, because like I said, the math didn't work, except with Chromac 2, where you could put Awakened Spirit on it. Awakened Spirit's still good, right? So a bunch of these that cost 1, you can still make cost 0, and the ones that cost 1 cost 0. So like you're getting a lot of anime out there. Getorix's Spiny Growth is now something that is very relevant, because a lot of times, again, he has that same problem, right? Where, well, it costs 1, so I don't want to, I need I might have one spare fury, but having two and going in on a hard target, not going to happen all the time. This means it can happen more. Wraithbane for one means your Pure Blood's going to cast it. Primal for one means you're going to get more of those out. It's interesting at Brenos' Animus, the Arcane Suppression, that costing one again is going to allow him to do a little bit more on his turn. Also, these are important because it means it's easier to leave transfer targets open. The Wild Argus is Doppler Bark that gives out paralysis. Animus is costing one is really a big deal because now you can get like 2 boosted damage rolls out. So he has 2 initials if you at POW 12, and it might make more sense if you can use the Animus, you're going to hit, but that sometimes is the end, so you'd always just combo, which is fine. But if you can get 2 boosted damage rolls, a lot of times that's going to be better for you, especially in a scenario where you're talking about something like synergy applied to it or something like that. So those are a few of the benefits that the theme allows for. I think this benefit's really, really important, really, really big. I think it doesn't sound as flashy as some of the other ones. And somebody asked me to talk about this, like how do the benefits of this theme stack up to some of the other benefits we're seeing? Notably, we've got Carapace for Crix heavies in the one theme. We've got Gang Fighter for Crix Warjacks in another theme. Hand of Vengeance, I think is the name of it, in the Protectorate theme that's coming up. Sackpawn, Shield Guard, etc. on some of the stronger themes being played now from like Khador and Convergence and Retribution. There's Apparition in some of them, removing AD, things like that. How do I think this stacks up? It's not as overt as those, certainly. I think the Hand of Vengeance one is... That one's quite the benefit, I think. I personally think it's a little bit much on that one. But I actually think it's better than the Carapace benefit for Circle specifically. I mean, the Carapace benefit's very good for Crix, and it does sort of what they need for their Warjacks to matter. So I think it's good for them. I mean, obviously we would like it, but I don't think it's what Circle's living beasts need at all, and it doesn't really make sense thematically either. But so I think it does stack up that well. I think Circle has some fantastic animi, and we have some fantastic beasts. And yes, I would certainly love to see them see the points for a lot of our living beasts looked at as a common thing on the internet. But they're not like that. That doesn't mean that they're bad. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't use them. I think they're actually in a much better place than a lot of people give credit for. So. But I do think that benefit is really good. Gang Fighter is a kind of very good benefit too. I don't know. Maybe it's better. Maybe it's not. I don't necessarily know how these things stack up, but I think this benefit stacks up incredibly, incredibly well with what this theme is doing. Right. Free Lightning Strike on its own now means. A lot of what Chromac 1 wanted to do is back on the menu. A lot of what Chromac 2 wants to do is back on the menu. I mean, think about that, right? Like being able to get that 4th Fury out of a Stalker during Chromac 2's feat turn is very important. And now he doesn't have to have Awakened Spirit on that Stalker to do it. I think Chromac 2 can actually play I think he has some play in the other themes as well. So I think the benefits here stack up. Plus, when I go first is going to be very important for some lists too, especially the faster ones, right? If you're talking about using Scarsfell's Griffins, for example, or any of the Griffins really, but if you're using Speed 7 things to get up the table, like you're going to take a lot of table, a lot. I haven't actually thought that much yet about the idea of Una just feeding on turn 1. Let's do that live real quick. Talking Speed 7 beasts, we can run 18 with the feet. Say we went first, we're at 7, 17, 25. So if you put and Una is going to want to charge something. So she'll be at 7 and 9. Sorry, team. 16 inches up the table, so she's already out of the kill box. Her battle group's not actually that far. Well, the ones on the outside will be, but in the middle, you're going to take a lot of table space. So I don't know if that's the right play. I think you can hold your feet probably and still be stronger. But regardless, it's certainly a very interesting thing to consider. You still can't, that's a caveat we should throw out there. You still cannot use your Animus if you run. So keep that in mind. In a lot of ways makes it much more compelling with somebody like Kai 3, because the reposition, a lot of times, depending on the beast, you can get nearly as far by trampling and repositioning. So like in some cases even farther. Like a Stalker tramples 9, repositions to 12. Exact same movement. Any of the satyrs actually trample 8, reposition 11, which is an inch farther than they would have run. And that's going to let you use your Animus. So I did say you'd have it all the time. You still can't run and cast your Animus. So keep that in mind. Trying to think of anything else. But yeah, benefits wise, I think that's definitely it's definitely on par with some of the other ones. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's the most amazing by any means, but it's a good benefit for Circle. It's in the right direction, I think. I think that this is nearly the missing component that we didn't have, right? Like most factions had a benefit like this, and we sort of have this odd distinction of we have these like two obvious themes in our war beasts, which a lot of other factions don't necessarily have. Legion has it a little bit. Crix has it a little bit with the Warjacks, sort of kind of sometimes have it, but not as definitively. Like the Wolds are very different from the Living Beasts, and we have a theme like this for the Wolds, so I think it was only appropriate we got one for War Beasts, and I think they both do what each theme needs to do. So that said, you're still playing Circle, right? Like my expectation playing Circle is not necessarily that I'm going to get the most overt benefit that exists and then just run up the table and do that. That's not what you're playing Circle for in general, in my opinion. I know a lot of people feel like a lot of our identity is missing and things like that. And I don't necessarily, I see some sides of that and I disagree on others. But I think this theme reflects that, right? Like it's up to you to learn how to use those animi, even though they're free, to gain an advantage. Lightning Strike, big one, right? Elusive. Kai 3 gives those Griffins the defense 17 with Elusive. Una, they're still 15s, but still good. And, you got Wrong Hand Snapdraw you can add sometimes if that makes sense, and etc. These are all really good benefits for us. And +1 to go first is pretty, or +1 to choose is very good, right? So I plan to try a few things out with it. I think it's probably, if I'm thinking about that for a minute, I think this theme is the only theme that I would play Kaya 2 in at this point. Possibly Kaya 1, almost certainly Kaya 3. Her feat does work on everything, but like synergy is so good, and it's really hard for me to justify not going very battle group heavy with her. Chromac 1 is a pretty likely also on this, although I do feel like he kind of wants infantry. Mosar would be all in on this if we had like one unit of Bloodweavers or anything that he could Sands of Fate to. As it is, he may still be okay in it, but I think there's probably other things he wants to play. Chromac 2, I don't want to definitively say this is absolutely the theme he'll play in. I did just recently build a Devourer's Host list with him, and it gives him corpses, and that's certainly debatable. So I think those are the two for him. Chromac 1, probably this theme. And then after that, I think it's up to you, right? I think you can play... Baldur 1 in this theme if you wanted to. You could play... you could play Tanith in the theme. I think that the feet thing is going to need to be addressed before that really makes sense. Unatu definitely... I think she can play in a lot of the themes. It depends on how you're building her. I think if you want her to be a more generalist answer, personally, I would not play her in this theme. But if you want to bring her to sort of be your answer to high armor, then this is probably the theme I would start looking at. So, but Una is just a very flexible warlock in that sense, right? Kruger 1 and Kruger 2 can play in a lot of stuff. I don't think that this is for that. They can play in it. I don't think they have to play in it. Wormwood could play in it too. With him, you're probably going to be more heavily considering bringing that minion unit so that you can at least get the corpses. And with this theme, maybe try out, if you're looking to experiment and think outside the box, start looking at some of the beasts that haven't really been played because people have sort of been like, or points are too tight or whatever. Like, I think Rotterhorns start to be something to think about in this theme because, you probably want some answers to infantry or possibly Razorwings in the same way. Winter Arguses, you only have access to 3 ranged attacks and 4 kind of if you count Brennos. So, like, the only light with a ranged attack is the Winter Argus. Like, it's not the greatest ranged attack, but it might be what your list needs. The Satyrs all getting their Animai for free, like I said, might be what your list needs. So, anyways, that was actually pretty long talking about that theme. So I'm pretty excited for it. I'm glad that that's what we got. I think with this, with Secret Masters, and then with the 3 themes we have, especially with some of our world changes coming out, that our themes are in the right places. And now it's just a matter of us, the community, actually going out there and trying some stuff out. And just as me to go up on the soapbox that I have created for myself, I would say don't just go out there and play the things that the internet is telling you, even necessarily the things I'm telling you, although I try to stay very neutral and point out just pros and cons. But don't just go out there and play the things that are obviously good, right? Like the Pureblood Woldweird thing is, Will talked about it a little bit in the last episode, but is something that a few players sort of decided, this is amazing, this is the best, this is the only thing that's keeping Circle competitive right now. I don't think that's true, personally. I mean, it's good. I'm not saying don't play it necessarily either, but like, there was a lot of lists built that way at WTC, and the Circle, the number of wins Circle put up was not great. So maybe there is something missing with that, right? Like, I think Woldweirds are good in the right list. I think Purebloods are good in the right list. I also think things like Ferals, Stalkers, Getorics are good in the right list. I think with the Wold changes, that Wold Wardens and Wold Guardians are absolutely going to be good in the right list. I think Wold Whites are going to be good. But don't just look at something and go like, well, this is bad, I'm not going to play it. Right, I'm not necessarily. I don't want to make the decisions for your bank account on what you should buy and shouldn't buy, or what you have and don't have. But try some stuff. Look at the theme. Look at some of these pieces that are oddballs, or start with something that seems obvious and see like, well, I'm having some issues. If I play this list in infantry and I think I need to adjust in this way, I'm having issues because. Let's go back to that Una 2 example, right? Like, I built this Una 2 list with whatever the number of Scarsfell's Griffins it can have, right? But now I have no guns. I have a lot of lights that I only can have so much fury out on, right? Like, I'm not saying it's bad, but there's still only going to be so many things you can do about that. Or, I mentioned Una 1. Like, the thing with the theme is with all themes, is you want to try to exploit possibilities, right? So I've been, looking at Devourer's Host, for example. I've not, I've played sort of the obvious maximize version, and I think it's good. I think it's got a lot of lists, the Kruger 1 version. But I've also looked at some other things, right? Like I've played Una 2 in Devour Sos, and I thought it's very, very good. I've played Wormwood in it, and I actually really love how that plays right now. Where a lot of people are playing Wormwood with, you know, like the 2 to 3 heavies and some number of Wold Weirds and then Souls. Try to play some, you know, just try some things, right? Like Circle is very much in a, we have all the tools now. I'm not going to say that there aren't things that I'd like to see improved. There are, but we have all of the tools. Just play with them. And, you know, it may turn out that they need to get better still, but, you know, or that they'll get adjusted or tweaked in a CID. But just try some stuff, see what your list needs. Warbeast theme is a great place for that because you're limited, right? You're very limited, so now you may need to consider some of your other options. So, anyways, that's my soapbox, and thanks for watching. And you know, that means that you can look at some of the options that you maybe have thought aren't good, and maybe they're still like not quite there. But if you play 5 to 10 games with them, now you've got some evidence. You know, when a CID rolls around, or you know, if you get a chance to talk to somebody at Privateer, and you can be like, hey, I played 10 games with this, and you know, I think it really could use this one little rule, or maybe you'll find something that nobody's been playing. You're like, you know what, this is actually pretty amazing. Because that's where Devour Sos came from. If nobody had tried that, and I give a lot of credit to Colin Hill for this, if nobody had tried that list at all, we'd still be like, oh, Thunder's terrible, right? But we're not. You know, that's evolving. So, anyways, I don't think I'm going to be able to get the guest of honor on over here. So, I'm on kind of a tall chair. But that'll be it for this week's episode. I, as always, would like to thank my sponsors, Griffin's Roost Painting. She does, as I've said in every episode, she does fantastic work. And if you need something painted to a high quality, check out griffinsroostpainting.com for, you can see a lot of examples there. Or Griffin's Roost Painting on Facebook. Most of the same examples are there, but you can also contact her through that medium. And of course, Muse on Minis. Big shout out to, actually, this is not something that anybody's asked me to do, but I would like to give a shout out to the Muse guys, specifically Josh Maxson for his and Ricard and for their great work at the WTC doing commentary, and Frank, who I believe is from Page 5DE, for also doing a good job, and of course Clint, who is the Trisha Takanawa, apparently reporter from behind the scenes, but really he's the guy that makes all that video happen. So big shout out to those guys. I was able to enjoy the stream quite a bit from them. Congratulations to the Team Germany for winning as well. And so yeah, I just want to throw that out there. Also, of course, a couple of Muse guys got to play as how events unfolded. So a lot of fun. We may talk a little bit about WTC later on. I thought the theme was more important to discuss. But anyways, thanks to Muse for letting me host, for hosting my videos and whatnot. And I think if I do get the audio working, hopefully they'll be able to host that too. So anyways, that's it for this week, and we will catch you later.